Okay, I'm about to go home because I'm not sure y'all really want to be here. How y'all feeling out here? Are you ready to be here to march today to say no to NATO, no to the proxy war in Ukraine, no to the war machine, fund people's needs, not endless war and occupation? We're against sanctions. We'll be standing up against Israeli apartheid. We'll be covering everything from Haiti to Eritrea to Ethiopia. We have the whole world who is targeted by imperialism here to be a part and to stand shoulder to shoulder with us here today. And we're happy to have you. So to start, we want to bring you a musical selection from the Black Workers Center Chorus, based right here in Washington, D.C., Southeast D.C. Look up the Black Workers Center. Make a donation if you can. Fantastic organization. We have been up here with them. I'm just going to step to the side and let them do their thing. The great Lucy Murphy.
Per year. No, if we keep talking on the mics, they will become alive. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Can everybody say paz?
Paz.
Queremos.
Queremos.
Paz.
Paz.
Y libertad.
Y libertad.
Wow, you all are ready. Give us the key.
Queremos paz y libertad para los niños en la frontera. Queremos paz y libertad. Paz, queremos paz y libertad en este mundo. Paz, queremos paz y libertad. Ya no más guerra, queremos paz en esta tierra.
Ya no más hambre, ya no más guerra, queremos paz en esta tierra. Paz, queremos paz y libertad en este mundo. Paz, queremos paz.
Bombas de radiación, no más ideas de exterminación.
Ya no más bombas de radiación, no más ideas de exterminación. Paz, queremos paz y libertad en este mundo. Paz, queremos paz. Queremos paz.
have some great friends with us here. Ben Grosscup and Ben Bath and Nikki Nesberry. I should introduce Eric Sheptock, the fabulous bass. Sydney Alexander. And Wawen Ewimbe. And my name is Green.
This next song we're gonna do is called No More Sacrifice Zones. My name is Ben Grosscup. It's great to be up here with the Black Workers Center Chorus, and we'll invite you to sing on this song. The army closed you in as they drove you from the plains. They're turning your homeland to a sacrifice zone. The company took the uranium, just the fallout remains. They're turning your homeland to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Sing that part with us. We will make it known. We will make it known. Pine Ridge, you are not alone. Pine Ridge, you are not alone. Pine Ridge, you are not alone. Your homeland has been desecrated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. The state makes voting obsolete through emergency decrees. They're turning your city to a sacrifice zone. The cops occupy your street to bring you to your knees. They're turning your city to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. Where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. We will make it known. Ferguson, you are not alone. Your city has been subjugated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. The coalmen blew the mountain, killing everything nearby. They're turning your region to a sacrifice zone. The state refuses to help your people as you watch them die. They're turning your region to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. Where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. We will make it known. Appalachia, Appalachia, you are not alone. Your region has been desolated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice souls. No more sacrifice souls. The profiteers will cut you down if you're in their way. They're turning your country to a sacrifice zone. The bombs that kill your children came from the USA. They're turning your country to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Yemen, Yemen, you are not alone. Your country has been decimated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. where your story's been forgotten, we will make it known. Pine Ridge, Ferguson, Appalachia, Yemen, Immokalee, Flint, Michigan, Northern Alberta and Camden, Standing Rock, Navajo, Palestine and Puerto Rico. We stand with you, you are not alone. Your lands and lives were sacrificed, the next will be our own. No more sacrifice zones, no more sacrifice zones, no more sacrifice zones, no more sacrifice zones. Thank you. We'll see you later.
Give it up for a big press up in the black workers in the chorus one more time.
All right, I was asked to introduce myself. My name is Claudia de la Cruz from the People's Forum. And I want to start off with a chant, because chants are good, right? All right, so we're going to say, the war machine kills by the hour. And you all are going to say, we fight back and take the power. Because we have the power. We got to out-organize these mofos. All right? So, the war machine kills by the hour. We fight back and take the power. The war machine kills by the hour. We fight back and take the power. That's right. So, a lot of us were here 20 years ago. There are a lot of folks that also got arrested here 20 years ago. And it's so great to see new faces massively. There's more faces that I don't recognize than faces that I saw 20 years ago. And that's very telling. And this moment is particularly more urgent than it ever was, because things are getting progressively worse. We're talking about an endless war that is at home and is abroad. Where we're talking about 160 million people who live in poverty or close to poverty in the wealthiest country in the world, where we're talking about the United States as the biggest polluter in the world, where we're talking about 800 and more military bases all around the world. We're talking, boo! We have an urgent stake in this war, an urgent stake, because this is for the defense of humanity and the defense of the planet. We cannot stand by and continue to watch the U.S. government, boo! I need you to say boo with me. The Pentagon, these Democrats, these Republicans, we can't allow them to continue to play with our lives, because that is what they're doing. They do not care about Ukraine or the Ukrainian people. Ukraine is the battleground for an imperialist war. And so we need to be clear in defense of life and in defense of the planet. Are we ready to fight? Are we ready to fight? Our fight is the benevolent one. Our fight for life, for humanity, for the safety of the planet is the one that is on the right side of history, which is not the side of the Democrats, and it's not the side of the Republicans. It's not the side of the most conservative forces that want to take over not only this country, but the world. Are we gonna let them? No! Are we gonna let them? No! We won't let them. No! And we will win. Yes! I am so happy to be co-chairing this rally with my doctor friend, Eugene Perrier. And we have a whole list of amazing speakers. Please do make sure you take pictures, take videos, tag, hashtags, do all these things we do. We didn't have all of that in 2003, but now we could actually make this a massive thing rather quickly. This is just a resurgence of an anti-war movement that is grounded on anti-imperialism. That's what we need. We need to be anti-imperialists that are moving forward the agenda of peace. So with that, my brother Eugene.
Well, thank you, Claudia. I'm honored to be here alongside you. I'm honored to be here alongside everybody who is here to say fund people's needs, not the war machine, to stand up when everyone says that you shouldn't stand up, to go against the lies, to go against the demonization, to go against the hatred. This is an event that they didn't even want to happen. The powers that be, whether they be in the White House, whether they be in the Washington Post, whether they be in the Congress, the Federal Reserve, the IMF, the World Bank, the Élysée Palace in Paris, the Whitehall in the UK, none of them want this to be out here. They want people to be confused. They want you to somehow think that it's progressive, that it's good, that it's morally right to spend hundreds of billions of dollars to fight to the last Ukrainian for what? Just for the ability of the United States government to control the whole globe. That's what it's all about. You just have to look at what they write in the National Security Strategy, their own words. That American leadership, they say, is crucial to shape the future of the world. They are giving themselves the right to tell every single other person what to do, and if you don't, they'll sanction you, they'll bomb you, they'll destroy their country, they'll cripple your people, they will end people's dreams and hopes of a better future and a better life. But we are here today to say no, no, no. No more war machine, no more imperialist wars, and certainly no to the proxy war going on right now in Europe. I want to bring to the stage, and before I do, if you are one of the pre-approved individuals who will be speaking here today, make sure you're over here to the left of the stage so we can find you. But I want to bring here to the stage someone who's been a clarion call for peace in many different fora all across this country and has been willing to take it directly to the war makers at the ballot box, Dr. Jill Stein.
Just a quick announcement. The sound is going directly on this side. So if you're standing towards my left, you won't be able to get the best sound possible. So please move in so that you're able to hear the speakers.
Thank you. This is what democracy looks like. I am just feasting my eyes. This is the energy that we need. We need to build a broad movement across all of our struggles for peace, justice, and democracy, because we are all up against the wall. We are all under attack. It will take all of us to fight back. And I'm so grateful to everyone who's here, because we are the ones we've been waiting for. And today is just our beginning. All these crises that we are facing of crushing inequality, climate collapse, endless war that's going nuclear, the assault on our democracy, and a big shout out to those brave, valiant protesters at Stop Cop City. That's another place where these crises are all converging. As Martin Luther King told us, these crises are all joined at the hip in what he called the triple evil of racism, militarism, and materialism. We can't fix one without fixing them all. That's why we need a big movement that joins us together, because divided we are conquered, but together we are unstoppable. As Martin Luther King also said 60 years ago, U.S. militarism is the greatest purveyor of violence that the world has ever known. Its wars abroad go hand in hand with its wars at home, targeting working people, the poor, and marginalized. The war machine is impoverishing and endangering all of us. Everyone needs to know that, and it's up to us to help get the word out and educate people to overcome the 24/7 propaganda machine that has really just, numbed people's brains into where they are just sleepwalking. We need to help wake them up. That war machine is costing $2 2/3 of our discretionary budget when you include the war at home, like DHS and prisons and law enforcement. And we are all in the nuclear target hairs. The costs are off the charts, as you may know, $840 billion, exceeding the next 9 biggest national military spenders combined. Our 250 military interventions in just the last 30 years, 68 plus regime changes since the Second World War, and a staggering 6 million lives lost and 38 million displaced to the U.S. war on terror. And here we are complaining about Russia's war, which, yes, is a horrific war, but it pales in comparison to the war of the U.S. empire, in which this provoked war with Russia, it is just one in a long, endless line of murderous regime change wars provoked by the USA. We must bring them all to a stop. I just want to mention one term, which is very important for educating people. That is full spectrum dominance. Does that ring a bell to anybody? So say after me, full spectrum dominance. Full spectrum dominance. This is the official military policy of the United States, made public going all the way back to 1992, which basically declares that any economic or military competitor will not be allowed to rise, not even to aspire to local prominence. This is what is generating our regime change wars, in particular the war against Russia, to prevent it from becoming even a regional threat. This is also dictating our war against China. And how idiotic can you be to think that we could take on 2 superpowers at once and be driving them together? That, plus the incredible nuclear game of chicken that our misleaders are playing, that are putting us all at risk of nuclear war. Did you know that it only takes a handful of these megaton nuclear bombs now? These are not like the Hiroshima bombs of decades ago. These are 1,000 times stronger, and it only takes a handful to basically create nuclear winter that will starve billions of people. So anyone who thinks that the nuclear war happens over there, don't worry about it. You've got another thing to learn. The nuclear war happens to all of us. We need to stop it. We need to stop NATO. We need to stop the U.S. militarism and empire. It's us to do it. As Alice Walker says, the biggest way people give up power is by not knowing that we have it to start it. We have it. We're going to use it. Let's start it today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joe, for reminding us that we have a responsibility to shut down all the instruments of war. We gotta shut down NATO. We gotta shut down AFRICOM. We gotta shut down the Southern Command. We gotta shut down the 800 plus military bases. We gotta stop Cop City. We gotta fight back in our neighborhoods against police brutality, against the killing of our people. We gotta fight against sanctions. Comrades, we got a lot of work. And we're going to keep on bringing up more of our friends and comrades. We have next Jorge Rocha from DSA in the International Committee.
What's up, Washington? Look at all the beautiful comrades in the crowd today. As mentioned before, my name is Jorge Rocha, and I'm on the steering committee for DSA's International Committee. I'm coming down from New York. Where are my New Yorkers at? Hell yeah. Wow. 20th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. Surreal, isn't it? 20 years. 20 years of this country whose response to an attack at home is to destroy the rest of the world. 20 years of illegal invasions like those of Iraq and Afghanistan, 20 years of special military operations, interventions, and assassinations throughout all of Latin America, the Middle East, Africa, East Asia, pretty much the rest of the world. 20 years of imposing unilateral coercive measures against so-called enemies of democracy, which is just code for countries that oppose US interests. And yes, 20 years of sowing discord in the world to where we are right now with this war. If this war continues to escalate, then I fear, as everyone else has been bringing up, that we are heading right towards nuclear confrontation. Mr. President, we are here in front of the White House today to make sure you can hear us loud and clear. End this war. Mr. President, do you think we're fools? Do you think we're dumb when you see this nonsense about a weather balloon in the sky? Blowing it up over the Atlantic, making a whole media circus about it? Stop this nonsense Cold War against China. And speaking about interest else in the world, Mr. President, listen to the people of Okinawa. Close the bases. There, everywhere and anywhere. Mr. President, listen. Listen to the people of all the countries and the suffering that they're going through. Leave the people of Venezuela and Korea alone. Enough is enough. Mr. President, tear down this embargo against Cuba. 60 years is too long. Finally, Mr. President, we have two words for you. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Comrades, in the words of a very wise man who we commemorate the 140th anniversary of their death this week, we have nothing to lose but our chains. We have a world to win. Only together can we win. If you're not in an organization, I implore all of you to join one. We can only do this by being organized. The organization I'm part of, DSA, has been doing so much anti-war and internationalist organizing. From the very beginning, we have been against this war. Despite what has been claimed to the contrary, I'm going to read directly from our statement. We said it very clearly. First statement, the Democratic Socialists of America condemns Russia's invasion of Ukraine and demands immediate diplomacy and de-escalation to resolve this crisis. There is no solution through wars or further intervention. This crisis requires an immediate international anti-war response demanding de-escalation, international cooperation, and opposition to unilateral coercive measures, militarization, and other forms of economic and military brinksmanship that will only exacerbate the human toll of this conflict. We have been campaigning against further military escalations and for diplomacy. Peace in Ukraine today. We have been doing so much work in terms of international diplomacy, sending delegations to countries like Venezuela. We've met with Maduro. We're proud of it. We've gone to delegations in Peru, Brazil, Bolivia, and we have had incredible success very recently this past week, where the governor of Okinawa met with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to discuss Okinawa's opposition to constructing a new military base in the prefecture. DSA was instrumental in making such meetings happen. Be sure to check out DSA at dsausa.org/join. We must build the left and fight the right. No war, but the class war. Thank you.
Give it up for Jorge one more time. You know, we all know that these war drives are also used as an excuse and as a cover for the attempt to brutally repress radical and revolutionary movements, transformative movements right here in this country. Under the guise of being for this or that person, they want to shut up voices that are telling the truth to millions of people around this country. And next I want to bring up one of the voices that this government has decided to target, not because he's doing the wrong thing, but because he's doing the right thing. Chairman Omala Yeshitela of the African People's Socialist Party, the Hands Off Uhuru campaign.
Uhuru! As it has been said, my name is Omali Eshatella. I'm chairman of the African People's Socialist Party and chairman of the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. On July 29th, at 5 o'clock in the morning, pre-dawn, an army of assault weapons toting, camouflage wearing, military forces identifying themselves as the FBI attacked my home. They used flashbang grenades, armored vehicles. They threatened my life and threatened my wife. They used drones. This was in St. Louis, Missouri, in the most economically depressed sector of that city. At the same time, on the white side of St. Louis, they attacked our movement, Solidarity Movement, and they used battering rams also there, knocked down doors. They held people hostage, handcuffed at gunpoint, as they did me and my wife, whom they handcuffed and zip-tied in front of our homes. They declared that despite the fact that I have been involved in fighting this system for most of the 81 years that I have been alive, despite the fact that I have opposed every predatory war that the United States, which, by the way, is the strategic enemy of all of humanity, despite the fact that I have always done that they have declared that black people are so stupid that it takes Russians to tell us that we are oppressed. I have never known a moment of black freedom for my entire life. I have never read of a moment since the beginning of a colonial mode of production where black people have been free. And yet they're saying that we are agents of some foreign power because we say black people must be free, because we say Africa must be free, because we say African people everywhere must be free. And we are here today to tell them that they don't have enough flashbang grenades in their arsenals to stop this struggle of black people and the oppressed peoples of the world to win our freedom. We think it's important to say that. I understand that this particular mobilization is opposed to racism and opposed to bigotry. We say right on. But what we need you to be opposed to is colonialism. Colonialism. Because that is what victimizes African people here and most people around the world. It is the colonial mode of production that this government is attempting to protect. And they were doing so when they attacked my home, pre-dawn, threatened my wife, and also made 4 of us, of my party and the Solidarity Movement that I lead, unindicted co-conspirators. So they intend to indict us. But our responsibility is to put them on trial. We don't run, we don't cower, we fight back. We fight like hell, we fight back. They have charged me with the very same thing that they charged W.E.B. Du Bois with in 1951. They charged people like Paul Robeson with the very same thing. And we know that the FBI cut his teeth in the war against Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association. So this is where it gets its origin. This is what it's about. But we are not about yet to fold. I'm calling on you, everybody here, to stand up against colonialism. I'm calling on you in this very brief moment. Go to handsoffuhuru.org That's UHURU. And I'm calling on you to recognize that where we are standing now is a war crime. That America itself is a war crime. It couldn't exist without what it has done to the indigenous people here. And when I say indigenous people, I'm talking about the people who live in these concentration camps that they characterize as Indian reservations. I'm talking about the people who live in the concentration camps that are recognized as barrios and ghettos throughout this country. I'm talking about people who live in the concentration camps that they protect with walls and other things like that to keep the indigenous people from coming back to this land to recapture what has been stolen from us. So I want to thank you very much. And I want you to recognize that African people here and most of the world, we're happy that you're against racism, but frankly, it doesn't matter because we're not struggling to make anybody like us. We are struggling for power over our own lives. Because once we got power, it doesn't matter whether you like us or not. They don't like Chinese either. But they throw out this whole saying that they used to have, you don't have a Chinaman's chance. Because China has more chance than all of us. So the thing is that we are preparing to govern because we cannot be a dignified, self-respecting people until we are able to feed, clothe, and house ourselves. And that is our mission. And that is why we build economic development programs throughout this country. And that is why we are being under attack, because everything that we build for our own selves, it negates the power of the colonizer. And that is why they're attacking us. So I'm saying, come to St. Louis. Take a look for yourself. See how we've transformed the entire African community there. Come to St. Petersburg, Florida. Take a look for yourselves and see what we've done to transform that. And I want to thank you so much for being here. Hands off Uhuru. Hands off Africa. Israel to E Africa. Uhuru.
We fight back and take the power, right? The war machine kills by the hour. What do? We fight back and take the power. Anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism, shut down all instruments of war. From the Philippines to Palestine to Puerto Rico. From Iraq to Palestine, occupation is a crime. You want to do that with me? From Iraq to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime.
from Iraq to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime.
from Iraq to Palestine.
Occupation is a crime.
That's right, we know who the real criminals are. All right, y'all, so our next speaker is Ria Ortiz. She is from the Filipinos for Genuine Democracy in New York City. We have a whole crew coming up. Isang taas kamawang pagbati sa inyong lahat. A raised clenched fist salute to everyone. We are from Filipinos for Genuine Democracy, composed of Filipino migrant workers, domestic workers, labor trafficking survivors, and their children in New York City. In 2002, I stood as a 22-year-old with thousands of protesters in D.C. to stand against the U.S. war on Iraq and U.S. military intervention in other countries, including the Philippines and Palestine. 21 years later, we that the very people preaching self-determination and sovereignty and human rights were the ones who trampled on self-determination and sovereignty and human rights, committing such great war crimes. It's also important to recognize that even though the war appears as a war between Russia and Ukraine, in reality, it is a proxy war between the West and Russia. But we ask, who benefits from this? Who benefits from this? The people of this country don't stand to benefit. The people of Ukraine and Russia don't stand to benefit. It's the military-industrial complex that's benefiting, that's getting tens and billions of dollars in contracts. It's the geostrategic goals of the foreign policy elites of this country who want to preserve a world dominated exclusively by the U.S. at all costs. Meanwhile, the U.S. military are planting 4 more bases in Philippine soil when they already were in 5. Boo! The risks of U.S. enemies retaliating and targeting our home country, the Philippines, become a real and scary threat. It's time for the wars to be brought to an end. We will keep educating, organizing, and mobilizing the Filipino community to stand for peace in Ukraine and no war in the Philippines, Palestine, Syria, and everywhere. Makibaka! Wag matakot!
Give it up for our friends one more time, coming to bring the struggle against imperialism in the Philippines. Next, I want to bring up to the stage another longtime fighter for peace who has been all over this country recently telling the truth about what's happening in Ukraine. They've tried to shut her down, but she won't be shut down or shut up. We're very happy to welcome here from Code Pink, Medea Benjamin.
So raise your hand if you're a Putin apologist. That's what I'm called all over the place. And you know why? Because we want to stop the suffering and the killing, because we care about the Ukrainian people, because we care about the soldiers on all sides, because we want to end the war. We're not Putin apologists, we are peace lovers. We are people who want to see an end to war. So, there's a guy here asking who invaded. You know, I am condemning Russia till I'm blue in the face. Russia should not have invaded Ukraine. It made a horrible mistake. And the U.S. makes a horrible mistake by throwing more fuel into the fire, right? How many billions of dollars of weapons are we going to keep sending? It's been $46 billion of just weapons already. So we send all these different weapons and it's never enough because there is a stalemate, because it is not a winnable war, because this war won't be won on the battlefield, it will be solved at the negotiating table. And I want to know why my own government is sabotaging negotiations. I want to know, when they were close to getting a peace accord back in March, why my government came in and said no. I want to know, when just recently the Chinese came out with a peace plan, why did our government say, absolutely ridiculous? And I want to know, in front of the White House, why Biden can't pick up the goddamn phone and talk to Putin. When we have a war that will only be solved at the negotiating table, I want to know why every single Democrat voted for $40 billion to keep this war going. I want to know why, when now the AP polls say that only 48% of Americans, despite all the war propaganda, only 48% of Americans say they want to send more weapons, why almost every member of Congress and President Biden sends more and more weapons. So what we want to say is that the people in Congress and the White House are not representing us. We have to be louder. Join us with Code Pink and Peace in Ukraine as we march through the halls of Congress, demanding that they represent us and call for peace talks. Do you know that right now in Congress the word negotiate is a bad word? It's ridiculous. So join us as we pressure the White House and Congress, and join us as we echo the sentiment from around the globe, especially in the global south. Just like President Lula from Brazil said when he was pushed to send weapons to Ukraine. You know what he said? We don't want to join this war, we want to end this war. So let's say it loud. No more war, peace talks now. No more war,
Peace talks now! No more war! Peace talks now!
thank you.
Thank you so much, Medea. One of the biggest weapons of the U.S. government and elite is the media, right? Corporate media is definitely that. It's where they spread their lies. And the corporate media might as well be their stenographers, right? They just sit there, take notes, and regurgitate everything that the elite and the ruling class want us to think is true. There was a chant that said, "They lie, people die. They lie,
People die!
they lie,
People die!
they lie."
People die!
They lied about weapons of mass destruction. Remember that?
Yeah!
They created Al Qaeda, they funded it, and then they were talking about persecuting Osama bin Laden, right? You remember that? They lied about the horrific terrorist acts they committed against prisoners in Guantanamo. Remember that? Dehumanizing people. They lied about the numbers of casualties of war. Hundreds of thousands of people died at the hands of the U.S. military occupying Iraq. Remember that? And it was not, if it had not been for courageous journalists like Julian Assange, we would not know the truth. But what the U.S. does with people who tell the truth is that they persecute them, they jail them, and if they can, they kill them. We know that history well, very well. And so I want to bring up a friend and comrade, the brother of Julian Assange, Gabriel Shipton. Free Julian Assange!
Hi everyone. I'm here with you today because Julian can't be. He has been detained one way or another for the past 13 years in the United Kingdom. For the past on the 11th of April, it'll be 4 years he's spent in a maximum security prison. He's not serving a sentence. He's convicted of no crime. He is solely there at the request of the US Department of Justice. What did Julian do? He did what journalists should be doing, publishing without fear or favor. He published the truth about 15,000 undocumented civilian deaths in Iraq, a lie that was hid from us so that we would believe that the war was going better than it was. He published the truth about 2 Reuters journalists who were killed by a helicopter gunship in Iraq, and then 2 Good Samaritans who came to save them were also gunned down. He published the truth about a cable from the State Department that detailed the murder of an entire Iraqi family, including 5 children. And then after they were murdered, the soldiers called in an air strike to obliterate that family from the face of the earth to hide their crime. This cable led to the withdrawal of American troops from Iraq, with the refusal of Iraq to re-sign the Status of Forces Agreement. Governments do not willingly reveal their crimes. We need fearless publishers, fearless whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning, like Daniel Hale. Fearless publishers like Julian Assange. What those who are pursuing Julian Assange, those who pursue Julian Assange with lust for revenge, those who pursue him in an effort to make an example of him so that the rest of the world will not publish this national security information. What they have unwittingly created is a worldwide movement for the freedom of Julian Assange, but also a worldwide movement for transparency in government, a worldwide movement for freedom of the press, and a worldwide movement for our right to know what governments do in our name. I'm going to leave you with some words from Julian. If war can be started by lies, then peace can be started by truth. Free Assange.
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Now!
Free Julian Assange! Now! Free Julian Assange! Now! Free Julian Assange! Now!
We want to thank Gabriel Shipton, who's traveling all over this country. Please look into what they're doing. They're doing a number of different speaking engagements, and please, what you can, and people you know around the country, let them know about what is happening. And I also want to note that we are very honored to have as an endorser of this event, the Leonard Peltier Defense Committee. And we're also here on the 50th anniversary of Wounded Knee, demanding the freedom of Leonard. We're also demanding the freedom of Mumia Abu-Jamal. We're demanding the freedom of all political prisoners who are held behind bars in this country. Free them all. What's the call? Free them all. Next, we want to bring up a longtime struggler from the city of Baltimore, Reverend Annie Chambers.
We're here talking about peace. But do you know where you live at? You live in the United States of America. The United Snakes of America. And there has never been peace. Not since they come here. They came as thieves and robbers and stole and killed, and that's what's happening now. As a woman who's been in the struggle for over 60 years. I'm 81 years old, and I want to tell y'all that I've been in the struggle since I was 14 and fighting for peace and justice. How can we talk about peace and we have our very own people starving in the street, cutting off the food stamps, cutting off of social aid, homelessness, and these are the very people they want to go out and fight for them. We're in the greedy ass America. That's why we are. And only a handful of people control this country. But we have the power to take it back. As a Black Panther, because I never say I'm a former, as a Black Panther, I tell you, we know how to take it back. And we're gonna take it back. We will not allow our children to die. Nobody's going to war to fight for the greedy, because only the needy suffer when we fight for the greedy. And we're gonna stand up and fight back. That is my message. Stand up, children, and fight back. As long as there's breath in my body. When they ask me when you're gonna retire, I say when you can't talk to me no more. When I'm laying down. Okay? Because as long as I got breath, if I can't do nothing but scratch you, I'm gonna do that. That's what we got to do. We got to stand up. I tell all the seniors, we support you. I love the young people in America. I don't care what color you are. Because until we all come together, they're gonna continue to do the nasty, brutal things they have done. They play racism. They play sexism. They play all the dirty little games on us. But we're gonna stand together and be as one. We want justice in America. No more homeless. No. Okay? We're gonna stand up and say, we demand that we get people like Sleepy Joe out the White House. Some of y'all young people think about running, and some of y'all think about what it means to have a just and safe country. We go all over the world telling other people about freedom and peace, and we in the worst place in the world. We suffer. We get killed, beat, stumped, and all in America. Okay? We in the revolution. We in the revolution. The revolution has already started. The revolution is here. The revolution is here. We already started. We call it right now. Let you know, this is a revolution, Joe. We in a revolution. And we're fighting against injustice. And we're talking about peace all over the world. But let's start right here in the belly of the beast. America! Peace, brothers and sisters. I love you. Continue to struggle. It's Minister Malcolm. I'm a product of Minister Malcolm X. Fort Wright Charlie. And I want you to know, we for nothing but peace and justice. But you got to give it to me, for I know you're not going to give it to me. So we about to take it. We're going to take peace now. Revolution! 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 Now!
Give it up for Reverend Chambers. She brought the word. She brought the word. The hypocrisy of the United States, the United Snakes of America. All right, y'all. The next person coming up is Chris Lee Carpio for Students for Democratic Society. Give it up for Charlie Carpio. She's coming. They say get back. We say fight back. They say get back. We say fight back. Money for school and education. Not for war and occupation. Money for jobs and education. Not for war and occupation. Thank you, everyone. I'm here as Chris Lee Carpio from Students for a Democratic Society. I hope you know who they are. against Russia and the U.S. interventions in Ukraine since last year. We've been having hands-off Russia protests, no to NATO protests since last year. We've been confronting police at all those events, and we still want to make sure that the U.S. government knows as long as they continue these wars, students will still be out in the streets. It doesn't matter how many of us that they beat. It doesn't matter how many of us that they shove. We're still going to make our voices heard and bring it to campus. And they've been bringing this disgusting propaganda to our campuses as well and polluting our campuses with it. They've been starting or trying to start CIA programs to recruit Arab and Chinese students at the University of Illinois, Chicago to do their dirty work for them. Shame, that's right. You know why that program is gone? Because students protested it for 2 years. Woo! And it shows that this works. Us showing our democracy by standing out in the movement, it is what works. That's right. So we think that instead of funding these bogus wars, what the U.S. government should be doing is understanding that we need to actually be fighting for our education and saving it. I'm here with Tampa Bay Students for a Democratic Society. We've been having protests against Governor Ron DeSantis' evil war on multicultural programs, Black history in schools, our attempts to increase Black enrollment in schools. And 2 Mondays ago, myself and my fellow students were beat and shoved and charged and arrested by the police, the campus University of South Florida PD, despite having just a protest where we were just chanting to increase Black enrollment, calling for a university president to meet with us and meet this demand. It's disgusting, and in fact, I stand here also as a member of the Tampa Bay 4, the SDS 4 students who were not only arrested and brutalized, but are now being charged with felonies and misdemeanors. And we say that we did nothing wrong. In fact, we did what students everywhere should be doing. And we just want everyone to know that Students for a Democratic Society, despite the brutality that we faced, we stand here to say no to NATO, no to this U.S. war, and Students for a Democratic Society will be part of this fight every step of the way. So thank you, everybody. And now here I'll have one of our students lead a chant.
Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education, not for war and occupation.
Money for jobs and education,
Not for war and occupation.
money for jobs and education,
Not for war and occupation.
All right, give it up for Students for a Democratic Society. How y'all feeling out here? Y'all feeling all right? I said, y'all feeling all right? I want the war makers to be able to hear you. Are you feeling all right? Okay, I was just checking to make sure. You know, I don't even know if Biden is in there, but if he is, he definitely heard that. Because we're here to say no to this war machine, this endless war machine. And next, I want to bring to the stage, from Life After Release, Afeni Evans.
When I say hands up, you say fight back. Hands up!
Fight back!
Hands up!
Fight back!
Hands up!
Fight back!
Hands up!
Fight back!
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Afeni. I'm a community organizer with Life After Release, and I'm also an anti-war Army veteran. We are here to demand peace in Ukraine and to the end and an end to the toxic militarism that is destroying people's lives and our planet. America is a country where 1 in 5 children under the age of 5 are insecure, and they are cutting food stamps because we can't afford it. Yet, on March 9th, 2023, the Biden administration proposed a fiscal year 2024 budget that asked Congress to give the military-industrial complex $842 billion. They sell us a false dream that they are protecting women in other countries, while the bodily autonomy of women in this country is being stripped from us. They say that one of the reasons why we have to beat Russia, why we have to unseat Vladimir Putin, is to protect trans and queer people in Russia. And there are over 350 bills criminalizing trans youth and trans people across this goddamn country. The U.S. is the world's largest polluter, partly because our military and Biden just approved the Willow Project. International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. And fine, I'm not here to defend his actions, but I want to ask, when is the ICC coming to pick up George W. Bush? When the hell they gonna come get Dick Cheney, Hillary Clinton, Henry Kissinger old ass, and they can go ahead and send a warrant down to hell to get Colin Powell too. Last time I checked, there are American politicians with over 1 million Iraqis' blood on their hands right now. We spent $300 million per day, every day, for 20 years in Afghanistan, just to leave them in ruin and starve their people through unjust sanctions. Unsuccessful war after unsuccessful war, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, we're funding a dirty war in Yemen, dropping bombs in Somalia. We dropped bombs the same day Russia invaded Ukraine. We were bombing Somalia, and the news said nothing about it. We have been escalating tensions with countries like Iran and China for simply trying to while trying to continue our armed stranglehold on the international economy. Let's be clear. NATO pushed the United States and NATO pushed by the United States instigated and continued to fan the flames of warfare in Ukraine. Adam Schiff said himself on the House floor that we fight Russia over there so we don't have to fight them over here. From pledging endless support and lethal aid to Ukraine to blowing up the Nord Stream pipelines, dumping millions of oils and gas into our oceans, we have been backing this war and fueling the flames of violence this whole time. War is causing irreparable harm to our planet, and it is a bipartisan effort to back this destruction. No one in any country, anywhere, including Somalia, Yemen, Syria, Palestine, or Ukraine, should have their homes blown apart. We condemn the illegal invasion of Ukraine while also condemning NATO aggression. We can acknowledge the choice of a people to secede from a country that they were forced to be in, while also acknowledging that we must strive to end all war. Our leaders are willing to sacrifice our lives and our planet in order to keep wealth and power. We can and we must fight back. Hands up! Fight back. Hands up! Fight back. Hands up! Fight back. Hands up! Fight back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Afeni. That was powerful. The United States holds the highest number of people incarcerated. Boo! A lot of these crimes are connected to poverty.
Poverty is a crime.
Poverty is the crime. The war on the poor is a crime. So thank you so much, Afeni. Thank you so much for bringing that message. So up next, we got Margaret Kimberly. Give it up. We always like our journalists doing the right thing for the right cause. Welcome, Margaret, from Black Agenda Report.
Hey there. Power to the people. Power to the people. And stop Cop City. I'm very honored to have been asked to speak for the United National Anti-War Coalition. Give it up for UNAC. You know, I have deja vu. 20 years ago, at this time in March, I, and I'm sure many of you, we marched to try to stop the invasion of Iraq, a war crime. Now, yesterday, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin, saying he's a war criminal. But Bush and Cheney walk free. So do Clinton and Obama and Trump and Biden, who've all gotten a pass after they killed people in Iraq, Afghanistan, Serbia, Libya, Somalia, Yemen, and Haiti. I know there's so many countries, right? But we want to end that. And the theft of money $100 billion for Ukraine to wage this proxy war. And we don't want a war against China either. So you gotta watch some of these folks who claim to be against a war in Ukraine. They wanna go to China and get us in another fight against a nuclear-powered nation. But that's gonna be true as long as we have imperialism. There's going to be one long forever war as long as this is an imperialist country. That's why we have an $800 billion defense budget. But we don't have health care and housing as human rights. The two are antithetical. You cannot have human rights respected when you have a country that is one gigantic war machine. And I just want to say also, we have to think about the other wars, AFRICOM, SOUTHCOM, Indo-PACOM, as the U.S. tries to control the entire world. But we will liberate ourselves from war when we liberate ourselves from the oligarchy. Thank you so much. Power to the people. And stop Cop City. Thank you.
Give it up one more time for Morgan Kimberly. I hope y'all are reading Black Agenda Report, and shout out to the United National Anti-War Coalition as well for helping to build this demonstration and bring people from all across this country. And we really are from every single nook and cranny of the United States. People have come from so many different, from Maine. I mean, people have come from hours and hours, Atlanta, you know, the Miami, Los Angeles. So I thank you all, and I'm not going to list them all. I know it's too many, and I'm sorry I forgot you. North Carolina, I saw some folks here. Detroit, LA, all of them. Philadelphia. Okay, I hear you, Sister Sancho, I know. Next, I want to bring up Brian Becker, the National Director of the Answer Coalition.
Sisters and brothers, I want to talk a little bit about what's going to happen the rest of today, because what we're doing today, I believe, will be remembered as something that's quite historic, something very profound, a commitment, a determination on our part to build a new anti-war movement at a moment when the forces within the military-industrial complex and the leadership of both the Republican and the Democratic Party have, without debate, adopted as a consensus position that the U.S. should be prepared and prioritize major power conflict. This means that the war in Ukraine, which did not really begin simply with the Russian military intervention on February 24, 2022, but many years earlier than that, including the fascist-led coup d'etat of February 2014 to bring Ukraine into NATO. This is a proxy war, but it's a dress rehearsal for a bigger war that the U.S. intends to wage to weaken Russia, to topple its government, to go to war and have confrontation with China, to topple the Communist Party of China, inside of China. And just think about the dimensions of the madness here. The United States could not defeat the Taliban in Afghanistan after 20 years, so let's go to war with the People's Republic of China and Russia. Think of the magnitude of that craziness, and yet there's no debate. Look at the mainstream media, the corporate media. They'll describe this demonstration as the far left or Russian apologists or something like that to demonize us like they demonized the Russians, like they demonized the Chinese, like they demonized the Syrians, like they always demonize the Palestinians, like they demonize the Iraqis and the Cubans and the Venezuelans and anyone who wants to be free and independent from the empire. So we're at a crossroads, and today I hope all of you will march together with us. We're going to bring coffins. We're going to do this in a few minutes, so be prepared for this march. This is what's going to happen the rest of the day. We're going to take these flag-draped coffins, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, Palestine, Russia, Ukraine, Yemen, Syria, and people from the United States as well, who are the needlessly killed, murdered people by the empire during the past 20 years. And we're going to first go to the White House, and we're going to say to the White House, you are guilty. You are guilty. You are responsible for these deaths. It's not the Syrians, the Palestinians, the Russians, the Chinese. It's the government that speaks in our name. And then we're going to go a few blocks away to the Washington Post, the neocon media that promotes lies, that spoon feeds war propaganda, and say to the Washington Post, we know who you are. You're not journalists. You're an echo chamber for the war machine, and you too are guilty for the deaths of all of these people. That's a short march. It's a short march, but then we're ending with an indoor event at the beautiful and historic New York Avenue Presbyterian Church, a place where the forces for abolition against slavery gathered in 1860 and 1861 and during the Civil War. And we're going to hear additional speakers, including Noam Chomsky, who is the renowned speaker and linguist who has led so much in exposing manufactured consent. So sisters and brothers, we're going to have a couple more wrap-up speakers here. We're going to carry these coffins to the White House. We'll have a short ceremony there. We're going to march to the Washington Post and then to New York Avenue Presbyterian Church. We need all of you to stay with us for these next 90 minutes to show we mean it. We're determined. We're going to build a new movement. This movement is not ending today. This movement is beginning today. It's the most important movement that could possibly be built. Down with the war makers, down with the war machine. Fund people's needs, not the war machine. And let's stand together to say no to colonialism, no to racism, no to the oppression of women, no to the oppression of the LGBTQ community. Say yes to the disabled movement and all of those sectors who are under attack by the same wretched capitalist system. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Give it up for Brian Becker. Are you ready to march? Oh, we are getting ready to march. It's going to be a beautiful one. Okay, familia, so next up we got Jackie Lookman from the Black Alliance for Peace coming up. Give it up for my sister and comrade, Jackie Lookman. I know.
Hey, Jackie!
This ain't a church service, but it needs to be a revival. I'm not going to pray, ain't going to be no scriptures, but this is what I need y'all to do. I need you to turn to the person on your left and say like you mean it, I will fight for you. Now I need you to turn to the person on your right and say like you mean it, I will fight for you. And then if you can do it, I need you to turn around, brothers and sisters, and say to the person standing behind you, I will fight for you. Because let me explain something to you about this fight that we are
not in, brothers and sisters. There's a narrative out there that says that we're only supposed to be focused on ending this one war in Ukraine and every other evil thing the United States government does with its imperialist, bloodthirsty planning and actions and bombings and interventions and coups d'etats, everything this government does around the world and in our communities here, those things don't matter. All we need to do is end this war in Ukraine. That's the big deal. That's the thing we need to focus on. But let me explain something to you. This capitalist system is at the foundation of every evil thing that comes out of this White House and the Congress that creates the policies. And capitalism exists, it grew, and it thrives on the exploitation of people who are different from the folks who hold the power. So capitalism continues to exploit black people in ways that it doesn't exploit working class white people. That don't mean working class white people ain't getting their ass kicked. It just means we getting our ass kicked a little worse in a different way. Capitalism exploits and denigrates LGBTQ and trans people in a different way from the way black folks are being exploited. Women are exploited in a different way under capitalism than men are. And black women and Latino women are exploited with that fabulous triple oppression under a capitalist system. So explain to me, y'all, how we are supposed to end war if we don't destroy capitalism. How do we end wars that are fought in the name of capitalist profit? Warmongers, weapons manufacturers making trillions off of the broken bones and bodies of black, brown, indigenous people around the world, working class and poor peasant people around the world. They don't do it because they legitimately hate these people. They don't do it because these people are a threat to our freedoms. They do it for capitalist profit. And they do that around the world for the same reason that a high percentage of black folks are still poor in this country, that working class and poor folks in Appalachia are poor, that black trans women suffer the highest rate of homelessness and unemployment in this country. Those are all the reasons that capitalism stays in place, because our exploitation, our different and unique oppression and exploitation all feeds and props up the same capitalist machine that exports war around the world. So reject anybody who comes to you and tells you that all we need to do is focus on ending this one war in Ukraine. Yes, this war in Ukraine must end, but let's not forget the 15,000 ethnic Russians who were slaughtered for 8 years by the neo-Nazi infused Ukrainian army. Let's not forget those people. And as we take to the streets, let us not forget, don't you forget the people that you turned to and said you would fight for. You made a commitment. We're not out here just to end war. We're not out here just to bring peace in Ukraine. We are out here to challenge and work within the empire to destroy the capitalist system that makes all of our suffering possible. And we do it for peace, absolutely, but we do it so that we all can have a future we can live in. So I want you to think about this as we move to the streets. And this is what we talk about every day on By Any Means Necessary on Radio Sputnik. It's the work we do in the Black Alliance for Peace, where we're aligning and getting behind the CELAC Zone of Peace. If you want to know more about that, we'll be at the church. We'll have materials for you. But I want you to think about this. When we come together like this, do not let this day be the last time you show up at a mobilization for peace Do not let this be the last time you fight for your fellow brothers and sisters. This needs to be a revival. Don't let this be an incident. Don't let this be an event. Let this be a revival and commit to stand, to fight, and to fight together for human rights. Say it with me. We stand. We fight. We fight together for human rights. We stand.
We fight.
We fight together for human rights. We stand.
We fight. We fight together for human rights.
We stand.
We fight. We fight together for human rights.
Thank you very much. A luta continua. The struggle continues. But I promise you, if you keep struggling, brothers and sisters, Victoria, certa. Victory is certain. Peace.
Give it up one more time for Jackie Lukman. Give it up one more time for the Black Alliance for Peace. And I see we are getting ready to move. We have a couple more speakers. And then don't forget, on the second end of this, we're going to hear from Noam Chomsky. We're going to hear about the struggle of the Eritrean people. We're going to hear about the brutal sanctions on Syria that are making it impossible for people to recover from this earthquake. So we have a lot more in addition to this march. I just want to know, are you with us?
Yeah!
Are you ready to stay in the streets?
Yeah!
Are you ready to show them the power of our movement?
Yeah!
Well, next up, I want to bring one of the most powerful figures in our movement to the microphone, Margaret Flowers from Popular Resistance. Give it up for Margaret!
How's everybody doing? It's a beautiful day. At Popular Resistance, we work to connect the struggles through shared campaigns and understanding the root causes of the crises that we face. We know that war, in all of its forms, whether it's drone assassinations, military invasions, illegal economic blockades, these types of things, all of them are done to protect the interests of the wealthy. The COVID-19 pandemic gave us a glimpse of what could be. It showed us the deep racism, the deep inequities in our society, but it also gave us a glimpse of what it could mean when people get checks, when people have their mortgages, payments stalled, evictions, moratorium on evictions, student loans frozen. These are the things that we could have and that we should have. The war on Ukraine and the recent bank failures showed us that when it comes to the interests of the rich, there's always enough money. But we know there's enough money in the United States to meet the needs of the people, to protect the planet. And we also know that we have to fight for it. We must fight for it by shutting things down, through boycotts, BDS, Free Palestine, by withholding our labor. We have the power to win the things that we need. So we say to the railroad corporations, if you won't guarantee safety, if you won't protect the workers, shut them down. We say to the health insurance corporations and the pharmaceuticals, if you deny us health care, shut them down. We say to the fossil fuels, if you come into our communities to extract gas or oil, we're going to shut you down. And if you try to build a paramilitary police base in our forest, we're going to shut you down. If our state legislatures pass laws denying the rights of trans people, we are going to shut them down. And like our comrades in the United Kingdom targeting Elbit, Palestine Action to the weapon makers, we say, shut them down. This is our fight. We're in this together. We can win. Let's march.
We're not going to march quite yet, but I appreciate you, Margaret. Give it up for Margaret Flowers one more time. But we have a very important speaker to close us out, from one of the critical struggles that is happening in this world today. That's the struggle of the Palestinian people against apartheid, for their own land, for their own sovereignty, for their own freedom. them. They are steadfast in fighting every single day, no matter what they're up against. And I'm honored to have here with us from the Palestinian Youth Movement, our brother Mohammed, to come speak to you about the struggle.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohammed, and this is Zaid and Raya, and we're here. I'm very honored to be here representing the Palestinian Youth Movement. We're an independent transnational grassroots movement of Palestinian and Arab youth in the diaspora who are organizing for the liberation of our lands from imperialism and settler colonialism. And like many of my comrades in the PYM, the barbaric US invasion of Iraq was a defining moment for me. As children, we all watched the horrors unfold in Iraq, a country that we knew had natural wealth, ancient history, and a steadfast people. The US invasion of Iraq represented not only the ruthless violence of the US empire, but also its imperialist thievery, with the US using the invasion to rob Iraq of its resources to amass profits for the US empire through the death and destruction of our lands and people. This is a cycle that continues today and will continue unless we, the people, can organize to put an end to the empire's endless wars. Not only did the US intervention destroy Iraq under the false premises which Iraqis are still reeling from today, but the US's global war on terror had its counterpart here too. In 2002, we saw the opening of Guantanamo Bay detention camp, which has held hundreds of prisoners since its opening, including several Iraqi prisoners. Heavy surveillance on mosques and religious institutions crippled our communities here and eventually culminated into the CVE and spying programs we see all around the country. And so many Muslims have been captured and thrown into the prison system as a result. And now, 20 years later, our people still are reeling from the impacts of the US invasion. The effects of that senseless war are still rippling today. But why Iraq? It's because Iraq did not fit into the US imperialist designs for the region. It was strangled with crippling sanctions that left hundreds of thousands of civilians dead for 13 years before the invasion even began. Today, the US is still strangling non-compliant nations across the world with sanctions, which are an act in and of themselves, let's be clear, from Cuba to Syria to Iran to Venezuela and now Russia and China, and the list goes on. Here we are 2 decades later, still fueling endless wars around the globe. The US's proxy war with Russia has cost the Ukrainian people immeasurable suffering as the imperial cheerleaders inch us ever closer to nuclear conflict for the delusional sake of maintaining US hegemony on end forever. And while the US strangles our people, it funnels billions of dollars worth of arms and weapons to its imperial collaborators. Washington's bullets and bombs rain on Yemen and Palestine as it comically claims the mantle of freedom's greatest defender. The Palestinian Youth Movement understands that our fight for the liberation of our land from Zionism is part of the fight against imperialism. Both US parties support the Zionist state and give it $3 billion each year precisely because the Zionist state is central to US and Western imperialism. Israel acts as a strategic ally for the US in their pursuit of endless wars, death, and destruction. This relationship is no accident. The Zionist thinkers who established the colonial state of Israel were clear from the beginning that their project was a reflection of Western colonial interests. The Zionist state was made possible only through British imperialism and colonialism and continues today to be sustained through US and Western imperialism. For more than 100 years, Palestinians have struggled against Zionist colonialism and Western imperialism. And today we're here to continue the struggle. We call for an end to all US wars, an end to arms sales to the Zionist regime, an end to the sanctions on Cuba, Venezuela, Syria, Iran, and any other nation being punished for putting its people before imperialism. We join our people back home who, as we speak, are rising against Zionist colonialism and saying, long live international solidarity. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Give it up one more time for the Palestinian Youth Movement! Okay, as you can see, we're going to move to march, so I want to give you some directions, but I want to remind you we're going to march, then we're going to be at New York Avenue Presbyterian Church, and we're going to hear from the struggle of the people of Guam, fighting on the front lines of US militarism. We're going to hear from the people of Hawaii, fighting the war machine, destroying their population. We're going to hear from the people of Eritrea about their attempts to sanction and isolate them. We're going to hear from the people of Syria about their attempt to break through sanctions. So now we want to move in this direction. There are two banners there. We're going to march straight down in this direction. We have the coffins in front, then the banners. Try to stay behind the banners. If you just line up along this little brick road, I guess we can call it that, right here, that'll get you to where you need to go as the march moves out here, just this direction. So line up if you can. Let's see if we can flow out in one line. We want to try to flow out as orderly as we can so that the mass, the breadth and the depth of the demonstration is clear to everyone who is watching. So stay tight, stay strong, and we're going to move out in this direction. I thank you. Let's take it to the streets.